Hey everybody, Plushie here. Koyan Dark is a bad servant. Or is she? Well, according to this spreadsheet made by renowned FGO data analyst Martlex, she does have pretty bad farming damage. And I really do genuinely enjoy this spreadsheet because it does all the work for me, and I believe data is undeniable truth and is the basis of every argument. However, how seriously you treat this list is a whole nother issue. Now, Koyan Dark undeniably have very bad farming damage. However, that is not the only aspect of a servant. Scientists from the year 2018 discovered a brand new type of cognitive hazard that infects the majority of the FGO player base, coined the looping Brainrot. Of course, it is not the fault of the community to think this way because of the seemingly strange trend of toning down the difficulty of main story bosses and challenge quests despite the power creep in support quality, such as characters like Castoria having the ability to ignore most gimmicks in every single boss fight. So of course people are only going to care about farming efficiency. But even in the realm of farming, looping is no longer the only solution. Take a very polarizing example. This year's White Day 90++. So immediately on the first wave, 600,000 HP Berserker. This is an extremely difficult wall to overcome even for some of the toppest tier loopers with high investments. This is simply too much HP to overcome for an AoE servant, and it is much easier if you try to fit in a secondary damage dealer that is either a single target or an insta-kill servant because of this enemy actually being pretty vulnerable to insta-kill. Now, I really like this kind of design that sort of exploit the common weaknesses of traditional farming teams. For example, Buster teams has a notorious weak wave 1 damage because a lot of their damage is actually reliant on double casting their DPS's self-steroid on following turns with the cooldown reduction that you're not able to do immediately on the first wave. So in these situations, I'm not saying in particular this example I brought up, but in a more general sense, in the situation where you want to accommodate a secondary damage dealer in your team, Koyan Dark suddenly seems like not that bad of a farming servant because of their ability to support her teammates very well with an AoE 30% MP battery, AoE 30% buster up, and if your DPS just happens to be an animal trade servant, also an AoE 30% attack up. But of course, Koyan Dark is just a brief example of the argument today. I more so want to dabble into an entire card type that suffered because of this looping Brainrot, the quick card type. Now personally, I adore Quick as a card type because in my opinion, after the addition of the Mighty Chain system and Summer Scotty, Quick became the most brilliantly designed card type to take advantage of both MP damage as well as face card damage. Now why is that? So first of all, according to basic FGO maths, Quick just does more MP damage than Buster and Arts if all other conditions remain the same, demonstrated by this simple calculation shown on screen right now. On top of that, Quick now sheds its old biggest weakness with the addition of the Mighty Chain system because back in the day, leading with a Quick card is a pretty crappy effect. Boosting your entire chain star generation really isn't that valuable, and even after the anniversary change where it increases the critical chance by 20% on each card for your chain after the Quick card, it's still very much RNG rather than a guaranteed effect like a Buster lead up that boosts damage or an Arts lead up that boosts MP gain. But now with the Mighty Chain system in play, you no longer have to sacrifice a good lead up effect by starting with your Quick MP and can comfortably use MPBA chains or MPAB chains. Summer Scotty took full advantage of this by boosting the critical damage of the beefy Buster card instead of the puny Quick card. So now when you do a Mighty Chain starting with your Quick MP, you're doing optimal MP damage as well as optimal card damage. On top of that, Quick is also a lot more convenient to use than Buster in a lot of challenge quest scenarios because of their ability to loop their MP. That's right, Quick's refund is not that good enough for farming because usually you only get like 20 to 30% back. However, in a challenge quest scenario where you actually can take face cards into consideration, those extra 30 MP refund suddenly becomes very valuable because now the burden placed on top of your Quick and Arts cards to regain MP is only the remainder of the 70 MP gauge, as opposed to a Buster Servant that usually has to make up for the entire 100. Quick is also filled to the brim with top tier DPS units such as Tyra, Saber Medusa, Kama, Rikyu, Huyanzhuo, and Summer Okitan, just to name a few. And Quick technically also has better team-wide buffs for multi-DPS compositions than Buster because Koyan Light is not able to provide anyone with team-wide buffs, while Quick with Summer Scotty is able to give the entire team Attack Up, Quick Up, and Buster Up. Of course, there are other options for both card types, such as Koyan Sky of Dark for Buster and Taikobo for Quick, but of course, the main most used meta supports, in my opinion, should be the most relevant. However, with all of these good qualities, Quick is still deemed way inferior to Buster nowadays because of its lack of ability to consistently loop 90++ nodes with a singular DPS. Now, I'm not here today to try to convince you that Quick is actually better than Buster, or even to ditch the idea that looping is an actual viable option, because even to this day, looping is still the mainstream way to farm in most cases. However, I just wanted to provide a perspective that maybe you shouldn't just write off an entire card type based on one tiny aspect of a servant alone. Now you might ask me, what do I do? What if this is terminal? What if it's too late? How do I get rid of looping Brainrot? Well, don't worry. What I didn't tell you earlier is that scientists did more research into the topic and realized that looping Brainrot is not a contagious disease or not even an illness to begin with, but instead a simple case of a loss of one's perspective. And as always, thanks for watching.